All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. We are going to begin with a beautiful sky. So I am taking the deep blue and I'm going to begin painting right up here at the top. If you happen to have a stretched canvas, you're going to want to paint the edges or sides of your canvas. Make sure that they're well covered over on both sides so that you don't have to frame your painting later. Mine is a canvas panel, so I'm not worrying about that too much. Make sure you use nice broad brush strokes with this Filbert. I'm holding it on the upright position just to catch the top edge well right here. I'm going to pull that right along, back and forth, covering over any pinholes. We don't want streaking like this where you see directly through the paint, so please make sure you use enough paint, have enough on your paintbrush to get this going. You really need to give it a good solid application of color, okay? You can also add a touch of water to your paintbrush as you need to while you're making your way down your sky. This is a really easy part to this. Good beginning, get a good solid start to that sky. Right about here, I'm going to do what is called wet on wet blending. I'm going to clean out my paintbrush for the moment. Just get it nice and clean. You don't need to get it as clean as you would if you were cleaning for the end of class, but you do want to work out that deep blue because we'll be switching to using the light blue. And I do recommend you add a touch of water to your paintbrush at this point just to slightly loosen up the paint for a nice beautiful blend right along here. See that beautiful wet on wet blending technique? I'm going right over that lower edge of the line of that blue and I'm bringing that light blue right up in there and I'm letting it work back and forth, bringing it through, make a streaky beautiful sky. Nice broad brush strokes. Be sure you hold your paintbrush at a good spot on the brush. You don't want to, oops, you don't want to do what I just did. I'll be here all week, folks. But I don't. You just want to hold it through right about here or here, but not on the metal part itself because that's just too far and you won't get any ease of movement through there, okay? Give my brush another little clean. And now I'm going to go ahead and pick up, and just a damp paintbrush, again, you don't have to completely make it dry, just damp. I'm going to go ahead and pick up some more light blue and start working more blue right in here. Again, bringing that down. Again, this is natural blending. Wherever you feel like you need it, you can add a little bit more light blue. If you want to come back in and do one of these, I'll show you what I'm about to do, is go back and work in a little bit more deep blue into the mix here on the tip of a dirty brush so you can get the double color just like this. And I'm just going to kind of streak that in here, have fun with it, make a really beautiful blended sky. I will bring it a little bit further down, but what we're going to do when we get a little further down is clean our paintbrushes. I'm going to work this top blend one more time right here, make it smooth. I don't like seeing sharp lines between the colors, just nice softened ones. Now right about here is where I'm going to begin the horizon for the water, so I would like to lighten that up a bit. It's always nice to do that, gives the illusion of depth and perspective as if the horizon were far away. I'm holding my paintbrush more at this angle rather than the wide, the narrow angle, and I'm going to use the white paint right along here, along this horizon line area. And I might need a little bit more. Always go back and forth as you need to. Blend, 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 blend. Just like so. Really, really lighten up that beautiful horizon line. And for good measure, if you'd like to, you can always add a tiny little bit of light blue to the tip of that dirty brush and just come back along the upper edge of that blend and just smooth it out like butter. It looks gorgeous. So I'm leaving a variation to the sky too because I do want it to look like it may be a little streaky, maybe a little cloudy, something kind of pretty and moody. And I think I might touch up just a tiny bit right here And a little bit of deep blue. Just if I see pinholing through the colors themselves, sometimes I like to go back and correct in a couple of places before I move on. Kind of give it a windswept look to the sky, make it look beautiful. A couple more streaks right here, like so, for good measure. And then I'll go back with a clean damp brush one more time. You'll mention I say that a lot. Clean damp brush is really helpful with color blending, especially if it's the wet on wet color blend like we're doing. Okay, so from here, I'm actually going to now change it up a little bit. I will be taking the long end, I'm going to smooth my filbert out like this. I'm squeezing the shape back out like so to make it nice and smooth. Okay, I'm going to be picking up a little bit of water in my paintbrush, just a touch, tap it off, and then picking up some of that deep blue in a damp paintbrush. Now, I'm going to flip the color to the upper side, not the lower side, because I want to control how much I'm putting on there. I'm going to turn the paintbrush upper level so you can see the paint on top. And then I'm going to begin gently painting. It does not have to be perfectly straight because this is the ocean. I'm giving a little bit of a wavy horizon line across here. That is the bridge between the colors, and I'll streak across a little bit more of this deep blue, kind of watered down as you see, which will make it easier to blend out. Okay, just like so, just in a few places, leaving open spots. Now I'm going to pick up some light blue, again with a touch of water in my paintbrush, and begin working that back, a little bit more of a blend back, like so, mimicking the color of the sky. Okay, very gentle brush strokes with a touch of water in your paintbrush makes it blend beautifully. And I'll do some more of that light blue before I change it again with quite a bit of water now. Not enough to make it a full wash, but enough to make it flow really, really well. I'm going to go ahead and give a good coat of paint through the midsection of the water right here. Really work that in there. Kind of come back up here a little bit more. If there's a touch of pinholing showing through that I don't like, I will correct that back. Okay. All right, now here I'm going to start changing it a little bit. I'll make longer variations in the water. I'm going to water down with the larger filbert still, working with the same paintbrush. I'm going to put some water in the deep blue, and so it's a little bit of a wash. Not enough to completely roll down your canvas. Add enough pigment so it holds like melted butter. Get that butter consistency, okay? I'm working some of the paint out because I don't want to overdo it. I'm also going to hold my paintbrush straight at the canvas like so, at this angle. And I'm going to go through into the wet paint with gentle pressure and put broken wavy lines in the water. Little hatch marks, long ones, streak it through like so. Okay, and get it about like that. That shows movement in the water and depth. Okay, and what we want to do now is go back and just sort of soften those back gently with a clean, damp paintbrush. A few places, if we get a natural highlight or the paint pulls off slightly, that's okay, because we are going to create natural highlights and shadows to the water, and you can see I'm kind of blending them together a little bit closer together, softening the look, pulling them along. So they're not so sharp looking. Okay, now I'm going to clean my paintbrush again, and I'll be starting to work with the color turquoise. I want to give it that kind of aqua look to the water. I have a touch of water in my paintbrush, picking up some turquoise, not overdoing it, just enough, and again, kind of not painting the wide way, but the long way with the paintbrush again, like so. I'm going to come back in here and start glazing on some of this turquoise, allowing it to be a little more translucent, flowing around in here with the roll to the water. And work it in a few places now, more with the wider application of the brush. And that will be that beautiful seafoam green. skimming it across in a few more places. Now that those have set up slightly, I might add a touch of it back here as well, wherever I have any open pinholes, and fill in through here, like so. Now we get this rolling looking effect to the water. I'm also going to clean my paintbrush one more time and go back with a damp brush and pick up some more light blue, which should be slightly watered down as it was before. If you need to make more, you can do that. Just add a touch of water. Coming in here and I'm adding some soft, watered down highlights. Get this beautiful variation to the look of the water, very natural and flowy. You can always go back later and add some more precise details, which we will be doing. Now I'm going to go ahead and continue on painting the beach to where I want it to end. I'm going to sketch that line. Again, not a straight line because I don't want it to be perfect along the edge. Kind of give it that natural look, as if the wave was rolling onto the water, the water was rolling onto the edge of the beach and just kind of pulling back and making a little bit of a mark on the beach. So we're kind of play around with that look. I've made a line here, but I am going to soften it with wet brush just so it's not a harsh line. We do want it to look slightly translucent when it gets down to this part of the painting, so I don't want a sharp line, just kind of a soft one right there. And I'll go back now and start putting on more of the light blue to that line, right, like this. Maybe add a touch of water to my brush if it's still a little too tacky. The paint, if it's a little gummy, will not flow properly. This is something we really want to paint quickly. We want to loosen the paint up enough, not enough so that it's completely translucent and looks like watercolor, but enough so that it moves easily and flows, so you're not spending most of this time trying to, overwork the paint or having it pull back against you and be difficult to work with. You just get this nice effect to the paint. Just enough water to loosen it up. Okay, so I have it right here. Now I'm going to add a little bit of the turquoise to my brush. Again, pull it through here. And we will be adding more ripples to the water, but we'll be switching brushes. I also want to now use a bit of white to lighten up this blue as it reaches the shore. So I'll pick up some white on the tip of a damp paintbrush, and right along here I'm going to really, really work that blend into the water. It looks gorgeous. This color blend is so soft and nice, pretty. I love it. It's so relaxing to paint like this too. I know I'm working you fast through these steps, but of course you can always pause and come back to this if you need to take this a little bit slower than I'm doing it. I have years of painting experience. I'm a professional painter and I have over a decade experience as an instructor. So I make it look easy, I know, but you can do this. These are very easy steps to follow. I would also, while I'm doing this at this juncture, like to invite you to take my rental classes. You can either rent my feature-length art classes or subscribe if it's within your budget to do so via a month-to-month unlimited subscription, which gives you full access to all of my classes. If you feel you can do that, that would be wonderful. You will directly be supporting my work as a self-employed artisan and supporting the continuation of these feature-length classes. They are very valuable art education. I work with a lot of detail, and some of them are over 2 hours long, so you get a lot of benefit from that. Even if you're only able to do the rental, you'll have 72 hours to complete your lesson, which will give you enough time to go back and rework things or follow along at your pace. But I do invite you to subscribe. I have a great channel for the feature-length, detailed art classes. I also have social media, so I will invite you to join me on social media as well. I'm on Facebook at laystudio.class and on Instagram at lay_studio.class, hashtag #laystudioclass, hashtag #laystudioclasses, hashtag #laystudioartclasses. Those are the 3 hashtags I work with. I would love for you to share your work with me. I always enjoy seeing my students' works, so please do so. I have a Facebook album where I add my students' completed works too. I love to share what you have accomplished, as I'm always proud of what my students have done. So as you can see here, I've gone back and I've just been playing with a little bit more turquoise, kind of bump that up a little bit, make it a little more poppy out there, really make that color stand out. I'm going to take a little bit of white into some of my turquoise now. You can just mix aside next to your turquoise or however you need to. I'm going to mix a lighter turquoise. You can see that just so it's a very light seafoam green, like so. And then I will bring this along here in this foreground area and add a few ripples, again with the tip of that Filbert, like we did before, giving it that beautiful beachy, oceany color variation. So inviting, makes you want to go for a swim. Right, like that. Now I'm going to do something similar with the deep blue. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of deep blue aside, and then I'll clean my paintbrush, and I will take a little touch of white to that as well. Lighten up that deep blue. We still want the contrast, but we don't want it to be so dark that it gives a really startling look where it's lighter in color here, right where it meets the shore, because that's where the water starts to thin out and you can still see some sand showing through, so we don't want to overpower the look of this. So I'm going through again with a little bit of deep blue, but as you can see, the white just softened it a little bit. And I will be going back and blending that out a little in a few places as well, because I don't want those so chunky. This is just a really fast way of doing this to get this project underway. But now I take a clean, damp, reshaped paintbrush, the Filbert, and just soften the look of those marks back, like so. Like that. I like that a lot. Okay. So right about here, I'd like to go ahead and work all over a painting before moving on. I'm going to take a little bit of gray, and I'll be painting it right along here to show the wet line of the sand where the water has just hit it. It'll be darker in color than the rest of the sand. Gray right here, and then I'll just kind of scumble it back with a dry brush, let it fade out, and then go ahead with this sturdy paintbrush and pick up some unbleached titanium. I'm going back and forth with those colors too and kind of working that back in again. I'll do a little bit of a blend with the gray on top of the wet unbleached titanium in a few places. A little color variation. And then I'll go back with a clean, damp paintbrush and just smooth that blend ever so slightly, and come back with a little bit more unbleached titanium just to give it a few more bright spots, and maybe a touch of white right on a dirty paintbrush, just a touch, and give it a few highlights. Streak the highlights across again with a long part of the paintbrush, like so, like that. Right, I like that. Okay, now, right along here, we have a very sharp look to the line at the beach. So here is where we're going to pick up that smaller sized Filbert brush. Ta-da! And we're going to go ahead and use a bit of watered down white. Add it just so it's like melted butter, and just a touch of it. Okay. And I'm going to skim that right along in a wave-like pattern, like so. And then I'm going to clean my paintbrush and work the wash a little bit. So this is just creating the wet mark on the sand where the sea foam may still be slightly clinging to the beach. We all know what that looks like. It's so pretty. I'll add a touch more white in a few places along here, maybe with just the tip of the brush, kind of little rough marks right into the wet paint, into the water we've just put on the canvas. Kind of blends in nicely. Just a little watermark on the sand. Okay, now moving right along, I'm going to take white, again, same Filbert brush. I cleaned it though, so it's nice and fresh. And right about here, I'm going to start working in seafoam right into the water, right at this edge right here, where it's hitting the beach. Really make it flowy, and you can use the rounded tip to that Filbert to kind of pounce it along so it looks rough and uneven. I'm not making the splash very high at this point, and I'm gradually building up the look of the white with non-watered down white, just the nice pigmenty white to kind of give it that roiling water look right where the sea foam is splashing onto the beach, kicking up some sea foam. So, and then I'll put a few little more splashes on the sand right here where it hits. And then I'm going to go ahead and take a little tiny bit of watered down deep blue, that perhaps that lighter deep blue that we've been working with, the lighter mix, just a little bit on the tip of my paintbrush. And I'm going to work in a few shadows into this as well, like the underside of the sea foam has a little shadow underneath from the water. It's a little bit of a contrast, makes it look natural. We can also take a little bit of that seafoam turquoise right onto our paintbrush as well. You don't even have to wash it, just a little bit to give it a natural break, a little bit of a look of water crashing down. Okay, now we switch paintbrushes. And for those final little details here, I'm going to go ahead and use the round brush. Okay, the round brush is great. We'll be picking up some white on that, non-watered down, and I'm going to deliberately now pounce in bright white in a few more places, bringing up that highlight one more time, right along here. You see how pretty that is? Bring a few splashes up into the air, a few little droplets of water with just the tip of the brush, little tiny, barely there, just noticeable if you're up close to your painting and you can just catch it in the light. Now I'm also going to take a bit of water to that as well. Now a little bit more of a watered down white on the round brush, and I'm going to go back and add in a few more places along here so it doesn't look like there's only sea foam right at the sea edge, at the edge of the beach. I'm going to add a couple of more crests of it here and there with the controlled tip of my round brush. You can see how I'm kind of wiggling it along the deep blue line in a few places where I want there to be a roll over with sea foam crashing down. In a few places I'll add a little bit more just to make it a little bit brighter. Tiny bit in the distance, with much smaller brush strokes so that it looks like there's an illusion of depth. We don't want it all to look like it's right there at right in front of you. You do want to give that variation in size so that it looks like they're far away, and it gives a little bit of an illusion of perspective. Okay, and then I just go back with a clean, damp paintbrush and kind of soften that out a little bit. You're almost done with your paintings. Now let's see. Work. Smooth it out in a couple places, make it kind of wispy here and there. Maybe it's windy and it's kind of blowing around out there. A couple of highlights here. And then with the same technique I was showing you before, in a few places I'm going back with either the turquoise or blue, this time not watered down because they're a little bit further out in the water, just to kind of give it that contrast underneath the roll, the curl of the wave. But I am going to soften those out. I'm working quickly because this is a quick class. I'm showing you how to do these techniques quickly. Get through that. Blend it back slightly in a few places. Bringing a few deeper blue marks down in the front as well, just to really make a little bit of drama here to the painting. And then a touch more turquoise. Tapping my paintbrush in a few places here just to soften that out a little bit more definition, just for the fun of it. A couple places I see a little bit more where I want to put a little tiny bit of deep blue just for the shadow. Really makes it pop. And this is the last step to your painting. What you would want to do here at the end, once you've completed your details, is if you have a tiny round paintbrush like this one, you can use that to put your initials in the bottom right hand corner, or you could use a pencil or a tip of a ballpoint pen or Sharpie, whichever you have that's most convenient for you. I'll be using the color gray on the tip of my little round brush here. I'm going to put it a little bit at an angle so I can get that into the corner. I'll show you what I mean. I'm just going to pick my canvas up like so and put my little initials down here. There we go. And that is the completed quick class. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Let me bring this close so you can see the final product. Get that in focus. You can see all those color variations up close. Bring it at a little angle so you can see that. It was a pleasure painting with you today. I look forward to painting with you again next time, and I do hope you'll either subscribe with me for unlimited access to all of my feature-length classes, or do the rental if that works for you and your budget. Please be sure to clean your paintbrushes out really well at the end of your class and reshape them, allow them to dry brush tip upward in your cup of water, cleaned out of course, and let your painting dry. Then you can go ahead and hang it up and enjoy it and show it off. You did a great job. Please share your work with me on social media. Facebook.com/laystudio.class, and on Instagram at lay_studio.class, hashtag laystudioClass, hashtag laystudioClasses, hashtag laystudioartclasses. Thank you so much for taking this time to paint with me. Have a wonderful rest of your day.